So again, thank you all for being here. I would like to go ahead and introduce our panel. We're very honored to have you all today. And so we just wanted to give them an opportunity to say hello, welcome you all, and kind of share their thoughts in this moment of tragedy here. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Brenda. And then after we do that, then I will give my more formal welcome. Thank you. So Brenda, you're muted, or you were. Now you're not.
Yes. Are you, I'm just curious, do you want me to take over now with introductions and introduce our panelists, or do you want to do your,
well, yeah, let's just maybe introduce yourself and say a
sure.
a couple of words, and then have each of our panelists do that, and then I'll jump into the.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alice, and thank you for hosting us. Thank you to Texas Children in Nature Network for hosting us today. My name is Brenda Kessler. I am program manager with the Children in Nature Network, a national nonprofit that shares a very similar name to our hosts today. And like Alice mentioned, we have a really exciting session today featuring 3 incredible guest speakers who will share insights from the transformative projects around greening school grounds that they lead in their respective countries. These initiatives really demonstrate the power and the potential of green schoolyards in creating a healthier and more resilient environment for children. So just want to quickly invite Ian, Joaquin, and then Heidi and Hannah to introduce themselves. Sorry, my voice. And maybe we can start very quickly. Joaquin, just a quick introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Very excited. My name is Joaquin Leguía. I'm from Peru, and I run Asociación para la Niñez y Su Ambiente, Association for Children and the Environment. And I'll be talking about why and how to include nature as a teacher in the school system.
And then maybe Ian next.
Good morning, afternoon, I don't know. Hello, I'm from the Netherlands, and I will tell you a bit about the history of the Green Blue Schoolyards in Rotterdam. And I will take you through the whole story in a couple of minutes. Nice to meet you today.
Maybe Heidi, I see you unmuted.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Heidi Campbell. I'm a senior designer with Evergreens, a non-for-profit charity in Canada. And we work with schools across the country, greening them. And we're going to tell you stories about that and our latest pilot project, Climate Ready Schools. Thank you.
I'm Hannah Miller. I work with Heidi at Evergreen in Canada. Excited to share exactly what Heidi talked about, some of our greening school ground projects, and then our latest pilot project with you today. So thank you for hosting, and thank you for being here.
Great, thank you, everyone. Did we catch everybody? Great.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for introducing yourselves. We're excited to have a wonderful group of panelists, and I just want to thank everybody for sharing that moment of compassion together. And if there's anything that you would like to put in the chat regarding the school shooting, we invite you to do that. Anything you want to express or share, and just know that we are all joined together with this commitment to our health and our well-being of our children. And it all starts by, working together and being together and having that compassion and empathy for these kinds of sad situations. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of give my typical instructions on the webinar. We're again happy to have everybody here today. We have Melody Alcazar helping us with our text, so thank you so much, Melody. We do have automated closed captioning available for this webinar. You just have to click the Show Caption CC button on the Zoom toolbar for the live transcript options. We are recording our session today, and to save bandwidth, we ask that everyone turn off their cameras and mute themselves during the presentation. I will be monitoring the chat so you can share your questions there, and I will share them with our presenters during the Q&A portion of the presentation. And this is where I would like to insert my friendly reminder here to be kind to each other while posting questions and comments in the chat. So I thank you in advance for that. I will be sharing the recording of today's session in a follow-up email. If you are uncomfortable with your name showing, you can change your name to anonymous and then private message Melody with your name for our attendance. You can change your name by hovering over your name, and then you can click the 3 dots that appear, and you can change your name that way. Also, if your Zoom name doesn't match the name you registered with, please change your name or private message Melody with your name. So this part's very important, so I'm gonna put my camera back on. So we do need to be able to know that you all were here. So only registrants that attend the live webinar are eligible to receive a certificate of completion. We do not automatically send all attendees a certificate. You must request the certificate after attending the live webinar. And then the email that you receive actually has the specific instructions for requesting this certificate. Attendance is taken during the live webinar, and we will check our attendance list to confirm your participation. We do need the name you registered with to issue the certificate. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to put those in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and read our land acknowledgement. The Texas Children in Nature Network is headquartered in Austin, and as such, I am on the ancestral and unceded land of the Tonkawa, Comanche, and Sana people. Our ongoing colonial presence on indigenous lands compels us to take action now to counteract the effects of colonization. The work we do through the Texas Children in Nature Network is one small step towards that effort. I will also put some information in the chat to learn more about land acknowledgements and these indigenous people groups here in a moment. And I just want to thank everyone again for being here. We have a very special webinar planned for you all today. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Brenda to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. All right, so let's get started. So we're here to talk about green school grounds and outdoor learning. We know that here in the United States, and particularly in some states, including Texas. Texas is dear to my heart. I lived in McAllen for 5 years and in Houston during 2020. So great to see some familiar faces. So we know that in states like Texas and many other parts of the U.S., there's growing interest to green school grounds as a key strategy to address our changing climate and really for the million co-benefits that green school grounds entail, right? Which integrating nature more fully into our education system is something that is gaining traction. And yes, we all have some sort, challenges. There are specific challenges that we face here in the U.S., but quite frankly, we sometimes think that these challenges are unique to the U.S., but as someone who has been learning about many different greening school ground programs and initiatives across the world through this work, I can tell you that when it comes to greening school grounds, we have more similarities than we do differences. And so, I got to manage the slides here too. And so one of those similarities is that worldwide school grounds are increasingly becoming recognized or being recognized as critical spaces where we can connect children with nature, promote environmental stewardship, and build this critical climate resilience that many of our cities are working on. So just very quickly to set a little bit of context before I hand it over to one of our first guest speakers. 2 years ago, the Children Nature Network and the partners listed on the image that you're seeing took on a project to understand what were some of the initiatives, scalable initiatives. So initiatives that were working, district-wide, which is district-wide is a word we use in the US, but city-wide, so more than one school, to green school grounds. And so we took on this project, we put out a survey, we received over 300 responses, and then we went through a very thorough process of selecting some of these initiatives to create some case studies. And so today we're going to hear from 3 of those case studies. But if you're interested in learning about more, I welcome you to check out our website, School Ground Greening, where you are able to see all 13 case studies that came out of this work. So our speakers today will share with us their perspectives on how we can learn from global efforts to advance this movement. This was our case study framework. We did 2 on play, 2 on health and well-being, 2 on climate resilience and biodiversity, 2 on community engagement, and 2 on education, knowing that greening school grounds touches on all 5 of these, if not even more. And so 3 other case studies were kind of all around, but we know that our speakers today, the work that they do, even though we chose them as a case study for community engagement, we know that the benefits, the co-benefits follow, and that they really do touch all of them. So these are just some images of the case studies that we had: Belgium, Morocco, Canada, which we'll hear in a little bit. Canada's repeated there, Brazil, Chile, France, Cameroon, and of course we have Ian from the Netherlands who will be sharing with us today. So without further ado, I want to hand it over to Joaquin, who will be up first.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Can you see my screen?
Did I stop sharing mine? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay.
can see your screen. We can see your
Okay,
screen.
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brenda. You forgot Peru too. That's where one of the places you visited. Okay, I'm gonna be talking briefly about our initiative that we're doing with our partners to incorporate nature as a teacher in school. That of course has to do with greening schoolyards, but it goes beyond. It's very holistic. Why? Why do this? This is a formula we believe in, that to create a better world, we need, of course, multiple variables, plus that children are doing okay, that nature is thriving, but also that children are growing in regular and positive contact with nature. Not only because children, as we know very well, needs nature to be better, but nature needs kids to be growing close to her, because in that way they will know her, they will care for her, and thus they will protect her and help regenerate life on our planet. We believe that humanity depends very much on the symbiosis between children and the natural world. When this happens, as we know, and all these studies, that children's physical, emotional, and cognitive development is enhanced. There's an innovative way of seeing this too, that nature has her own intelligence, some people call it natural intelligence, we call it nature's intelligence, and kids can learn about this. What is this? It's our principles that have allowed life to exist, flourish, and diversify and sustain herself for more than 3.8 billion years. These principles are interconnection and interdependency, biodiversity, collaboration, resilience and adaptation, circularity, regeneration, among others. We believe those are the ones that hold and all the others and are very important. So bringing nature close to kids will help, and as a teacher will help kids learn about these principles that are key for the survival and thriving of our species. Then also it helps develop in-depth empathy for life, which is a capacity to feel, to think, and to act on behalf of our well-being, others, and the natural world of which we are part. And then we have that circle of empathy for life that tells about that. Oneself means your spirit, emotions, mind, and body. Others include those who you love, those who you see and you do not see. Our ancestors and unborn are there. And nature, of course, air, water, fungi, soil minerals, animals, and plants, of course, humans that we are part of it. Then it helps develop a sense of purpose in us as regenerators of life, and it builds and enhances resilience and to be able to mitigate and adapt to all the changes that are happening. To be able to do this, why is that we have to go beyond of what we're doing to meet the targets we need to meet. One of the things is that the challenge we meet is not only climate crisis, it's environmental crisis, which includes climate change, it includes biodiversity loss, it includes contamination, and for us, it also includes deficits of contact with nature. To be able to, again, to move forward, we need to evolve from a human-centric operation system to a life-centric operation system. So said that, how do we go about it? And how do we tangibilize this bringing nature as a teacher in school? So first, nature is institutionalized and made visible as a teacher. For that, she's included in school policies as a teacher, and her principles are adopted too, and then she's visibilized, respecting all indigenous cultures of where this is happening and children's view to avoid adult centrism. And in many cases, children love the concept of Mother Nature more than just nature. Second, it institutionalizes a place in the school that will become the classroom of Mother Nature or Mother Earth or nature. And this place is built with the students. It's created with the students. It's not created for the students. It's habilitated with them. Then in the class timetable of the school is included at least 1 hour a week of semi-structured time with nature or Mother Nature as a teacher, for kids there to do things that are good for themselves, others, and the natural world. And this is a place too that teachers use any time to integrate the nature's intelligence principles on all the subjects of the school, of the curricula, outside and inside. And then the other thing is being able to register and value the actions that kids do and that manifest how the knowledge they acquire, they are putting that knowledge with values to make a better world, to regenerate life on our planet. And so they have like a diary where they do this, and then they have a sheet that they put the activities that they are doing, and that is an indicator of what they have learned and how this knowledge, they are applying it with values to regenerate life on our planet. And they manage their own booklet. Okay, that's how in really brief, and then how to expand in a world that, you know, the science says we have until 2030 to move a little the direction we're taking to be able to have more chance to thrive. And the methodology that does this is called Children's Lands, and that's a methodology that is that was recognized by the movement that Brenda is part of. And we have many allies and we're present in 10 countries. And this was institutionalized that was recognized by UNESCO as a good practice of education for sustainable development. That helped catalyze initiative. And lately there was a breakthrough that the Ministry of Environment of our country did a resolution through which they recognize Mother Nature as a teacher. And finally, we are ready to catalyze globally this, not only in these 10 places, but further on, and based on we're part of this, to be able to achieve this, we're part of the Green School Grounds and Outdoor Learning movement, and the Green School Quality Standard of the Greening Education Partnership led by UNESCO. We're making all the actions to fit in this framework to be able to catalyze this initiative. And we believe this initiative is in the framework of regenerative and nature-based education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joaquin. And while I have you on, I know that you moved to Costa Rica from Peru, so you started this work in Peru, and you were able to institutionalize nature as a teacher, and that has replicated in many parts of the world. This teeny Tierra de Niños methodology, and now you're in Costa Rica scaling that and hoping to scale even further. So can you tell us a little bit about your work in Costa Rica and how it's expanding?
Yeah, like I told my wife, one of the reasons we moved here 2 years ago was because this is my Everest. You know, this is it. This is a big mountain, and because of the times we're living, one of the reasons we moved here was because Costa Rica in the environmental arena is very much moving forward, and the idea is here to make alliances with different organizations like the Guardians, Nature Guardian movement from Ashoka Fellow that is here, with the Universidad de Cooperación Internacional, with the Universidad Nacional de Costa Rica and the UNESCO schools. And the idea is that the Costa Rica institution is one of the first countries that includes nature as a teacher in its education system. And we're moving forward, and very recently, just to finish to answering your question, we're very proud because La Universidad Nacional de Costa Rica, the Faculty of Education, institutionalized Mother Nature as a teacher, which is a breakthrough because then now they have her classroom in one of their campuses of nature's classroom, and a module is being created for all future teachers to know how to teach with nature as a partner. And so yeah, we're very happy about that. And the idea is that inspires other universities, not only in the continent of America, but others to do the same. And the university will create a course for others who are interested to come here and learn how this was accomplished. Thank you, Brenda.
No, thank you. And anecdotally, I always like to share. I had the privilege of traveling to Peru to see some of these spaces, and one of the most beautiful things I remember seeing is, nature as a teacher integrated with the images of other teachers. So really making a conscious effort of showing how nature is just a teacher, just like the other individuals, physical individuals there. I got to keep track of time here. So we're going to move this along. I'm going to take us on a plane and fly us over to the Netherlands now, and give the mic and the space for Ian, who works with IVN and is transforming schoolyards in the Netherlands by really engaging the community and redesigning these spaces into nature-rich spaces that not only include green elements, but blue elements. So integrating water and earth into these spaces. Ian, take it away. I know I'm sharing your slides, so 1 second.
Okay, nice to be with you this afternoon. I would like to tell you a bit about our journey to get at where we are at this moment with the Green Blue Schoolyards. And when we go to the next slide, I can tell you we didn't think about Green Blue Schoolyards in 2006. In 2006, there was a vision about how can we improve the city, how can we make it nicer for families to live here, make it safer. It was a really hard city, only pavement, iron, but also lots of violence, and it's a poor harbor city, Rotterdam. So there was a policy, how can we make it more child-friendly, how can we make it more family-friendly? So here you can see the improvement of a concept. And when we go to the next slide, you can see there were several ideas. And for example, housing, 85 square meters per family. Also the public space, the routes must be safer. And also the schools and the schoolyards became a topic. And when we go to the next slide, you can see more on a city scale level. It's Rotterdam is a city of 600, almost 700,000 people. And we were looking for some solutions, how we could make it some better. And here you can see some ideas. Like also the pavement. Children can go out of their room and for their homes and play in the sun side of the road. And there we started in 2008 for the first time with some experiments with the green schoolyards, not the blue, just only green. And when we go to the next one, you can see the part of the climate. And this started more in 2017, 2018. And before it was just about child friendliness. And in the beginning, it was not a success. And I can tell you a bit more about that later. But after a couple of years, many schools asked us, help us, we would like to have a green schoolyard. And there was a climate crisis starting and lots of policy about climate. And here you can see some problems in the Netherlands. Water is coming from everywhere, but we also have some heat issues and drought. So there was a lot of budget and we could integrate it in the child-friendly policy. So it became a more integral concept. Yes, next one. Here you can see some public squares, some schoolyards, and this is where children are for 40% of the time they are awake. So it's really unhealthy, really hot, really boring. And when we go to the next slide, you can also see lots of other problems we counted in the Netherlands. And it's a big problem. And it's not only a big problem right now, but also in the future. Some problems you can solve right now, you have to pay it right now, but the benefits are there in 20 years, 30 years. So it's really difficult for policymakers. So like we started in 2006, you have to start right now to have a good policy for over 20 years, 30 years. But many times it's really difficult for policymakers. So I would like to tell you more about this, about the importance of this, and challenge you. If you could do something, just do it. Just start and you can improve the concept. Okay, next one. Here you can see some parts we've learned in the first years. And 10 years ago, I was thinking about how can we develop a concept when we can solve some problems, but also help the schools. So here you can see some problems about there is no good leader. Sometimes the principal moves and then, so you need a team. And there are no rules about maintenance. So you need some ideas before you start. And it's like all those things. These are the problems you have to tackle before you start. Just manage this. And when we go to the next one, you can also see how we made some policy for the schools. This is what they have to do. And we pay them for all those things and we lead the process for them. Many times it's the first time they will develop a green schoolyard or green blue. So we help them through the process. The only thing they have to know is how to organize the education, and we stimulate the outdoor education. But what we also do is stimulating the involvement of the children and the teachers, the parents, the neighborhood. And we are working on their schoolyard. And it's not the one of the municipality or another organization, but it's a really big culture thing. It's not organizing things, it's easy, but organizing another culture is really difficult. So we help them through those processes. Yeah. And here you can see some principles about design, collaboration, the policy, finance and judicial implications. Those 5 pillars are really important when you start with the policy. If you would like to know more about it, just give a call. But don't have time for that. Okay, here you can see many types of policy, but I think we have to go to the next one. But it's an integral concept. Here you can see more about how we select schools, about their location, but also most important about the motivation. Yep. And we use a lot of data about water, heat, poverty, health, and we can use it to select schools. That's 50% top-down policy. And the other 50% is about the motivation of the schools. and we are looking for their vision on community involvement, outdoor education, maintenance, organization. And I think we have to go to the next slide. I'm a really bad time manager, so here you can see the importance of always having the child in the middle of your policy. And every time when it's getting difficult, think about them. How can we make the world better for them, not easier for our policy or budgets or regulations? It's too easy. Okay. And here we can go a bit quicker through those slides. You can see how nice it is to involve the children and the families and the neighborhood, and they are working on their space, and they are playing outside, they are learning outside, and they are developing their own living room, and that's how you can do that. Many people are afraid of this, but it's really nice to do. You can see also the next slide. You can already start with your vision by playing, and it's not playing, it's learning, and you need a dialogue about decision making and budgets. When you look at this, many people think they're just playing, but it's much more than that. Okay. So designing, working, developing, and doing the maintenance, you can do it together. And on the next slide, you can also see outdoor education. It's fun, and children are really interested. They're concentrated, and they love to learn a lot about nature, but you can also use nature for other lessons. So you can almost do everything outside, and then you can come back for the books. Here's some challenges, but I think I can better share this presentation afterward, so I don't use all the time.
Thank you, Ian. And I know it's a very comprehensive program that takes into account from beginning to end, just a lot to take in. Even in our own work in the U.S., at Children Nature Network, we have a process map, and you touched upon a lot of the phases that this work entails. And I know I've talked to you a lot about the policy and the need for strong city leadership in this work. And this is something that comes up in our work a lot here in the US. And I wonder if you can expand a little bit on that and how you are working to really get city leadership buy-in to scale this outside of Rotterdam and different areas of the Netherlands.
Okay. Yeah, we are doing a lot of things. One of the most important things, it's about a political will. So it's possible, just do it. And another thing, when you try to make a really big integral concept, it's really difficult. So you can also better start and improve your concept year in, year out. And don't try to bring everyone together in one time. That can be really difficult, and you're talking, and so it's really important to start with a program team, with some people from the city, some educators. Another really important thing is use your budgets, of course. Choose the ones with a vision, not just spending money, and also really important, help the schools through the process. You need a good process leader, and don't give the money away and hoping it will be okay. And about scaling, it's also really important to have the good people to lead those processes, to train the teachers or help the people from the city. We are also developing training courses for the civil servants to help them through the process. Many times it's also new for them. And sometimes it's about climate or health or biodiversity or education. And when you're working, you can always bring the other people together, but just start somewhere.
I like that. Start somewhere. We all got to start at least somewhere. So we're keeping track of time, and I'm gonna thank you, Ian. First of all, thank you so much. We'll have time for questions. I'm trying to make sure we have time for questions at the end. I know I see some questions coming in the chat. If you're a speaker and the questions directly to you, go ahead and answer. But for now, I'm gonna fly us back to North America and hand it over to our friends in Evergreen, Canada, who are leading also some amazing work. Heidi and Hannah. We're ready for you, and I will get that presentation started in a second. Are we good?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Wow, really excited to be here with everybody and hearing all the great insights already that have been shared. So really excited to share our work with you as well. So let's dive in. Since we're like a little bit shy on time, I'm going to try to not steal too much of the audience's time for questions. So Evergreen. So here we are in Toronto, in Ontario, Canada. Evergreen's a national not-for-profit, and we're really into the transforming of public spaces in our cities. We've been doing this for many, many years, probably 30 plus years now, to build healthier futures for people and planet. Next slide. So our work really started planting trees in cities, but we also started on school grounds, and we started to reach out to schools locally for, giving them grants and trying to help them green their school grounds, working with the school boards. And we then got an enormous amount of money from a sponsor, which we were so excited about. For many years, we had a sponsorship, and we were able to go across the country with our programming. So you can see some of the stats here. We've worked with over 6,000 schools across the country in different provinces. Lots of students, teachers, and staff that we've worked with. Tons of professional development, not only with teachers, but also with facilities managers at our school boards. We call them school boards. I think in the States they're districts, but this is what we call them here. And we were awarding grants. So giving people some money to get their projects started. And this is how we worked our program for 25 plus years. Next slide. So all of this work that we were doing with teachers and students and school boards, helping them build their capacity to have green school ground projects, we started to think about some of the challenges. Of course, climate change is a huge global challenge. And we were also thinking, could we do an entire school ground transformation in a community that is really needed a lot of better quality green space, but also a school ground that was completely degraded and compacted. The trees hadn't grown at all since they were put in. And this school, we chose, it has 1,100 students from junior kindergarten to grade 8. And it's about a 4-acre site. And we'd been working with this school board for about 10 years already, helping them transform their school grounds and build their capacity internally to do that. Next slide. So we are, experiencing the multiple benefits. Brenda was touching on this too, how we design for multiple benefits. You'll notice around this wheel, some of the main areas are climate resiliency, learning, health, and well-being. And then we break that down. And a lot of us are looking at these different challenges and realizing that there's, solutions hiding in plain sight with our school ground work. And so, yeah, so this is like, all of us know some of these really great benefits. Next slide. I'll hand it over to Hannah for the next 2 slides.
Thanks, Heidi. We just wanted to introduce a few of Evergreen's guiding principles. So all of the projects that Heidi mentioned that we've done over our 30-year legacy, and then also at this pilot project, you can see them listed there. But the ones I want to highlight are putting children at the center. Children were involved in the design process, the students at the school from the beginning. I think Ian mentioned, like, this is where children are spending a lot of their waking hours. So we wanted to make sure that it reflected their needs and their interests. So we use a child-friendly participatory design process to create the master plan for the site. And then the other one I touched on is co-creation. So the ideas are developed with the children, but also with the surrounding community. The school board was really open-minded and saw this school ground more like a park-like amenity for their community. So wanting the community to use the space outside of school hours. So we hosted different workshops and design sessions with surrounding community members as well, so that everyone felt included and saw themselves reflected in the design. Next, I'll talk a little bit about some of the components of this program. So it's not just about the school ground design. Like I mentioned, we use the participatory design process. The other ones that I'll highlight here are the professional development. So we work with educators to talk about how they can take advantage of their new school ground. I mean, we totally transformed it. So how they could apply it to their teaching and learning. And then we also, Heidi mentioned, work with facilities staff to talk about what maintenance looks like in spaces like this. And then we create a set of design guidelines. So if the school board wants to do this work elsewhere, we're obviously there to support, but they also have a design guidebook with specifications and details for how they can add different elements into other school grounds.
Great. So this slide is really giving you a sense of how we were addressing climate change through a couple of different theories. And one of them was this Berlin sponge school ground strategy. And we worked with, and some of you might know her, but Birgit Teichmann. She's a landscape architect in Berlin. She's done, 40 years of work on school grounds and parks, and adapting them, like making them heat adaptive and water sensitive. So this diagram just shows you a little bit of what that strategy entails and how you can address public space through some of these different strategies. So we were applying these. Next slide, please. Thanks, Brenda. So this is Irma Colson master plan. And again, it's a 4-acre transformation. So you can see there's lots of green. There was lots of gray before this, and also lots of compacted field space, and really just nothing to do. It was really just a large barren expanse. And I'm going to take you through quickly through this part, which is just showing you a little bit of the features and components of the design. And again, just to reiterate what Hannah was saying, the children were really at the center of this design. And we did a lot of engagement with them. And they did videos. And they can express themselves in so many different ways. So when I show you the next slides, you'll see their imagination really comes through. So next slide, Brenda. Of course, they wanted a tunnel and a bridge, and they had all kinds of ideas about how that might come to fruition. And so, yeah, we took a giant drain pipe and we turned it into a tunnel. And we worked with local craftspeople. We had masons build this tunnel out of different materials that actually came from other school grounds that were being built in the area. So these are leftover materials. Next slide. So the teachers were really keen, and the parents were keen on having a gathering area, and the children wanted a place to perform. So this little amphitheater has a stage and a nice, just a nice comfortable area with trees planted all around it. Next slide. And I noticed this in Ian's slide too, that the water and the sand play, just so important and often not really realized anywhere. So this doesn't look like any Canadian school ground. It's completely different. Next slide. And again, using mixed materials and working with local craftspeople to build these play walls. And they were the edging on the sand play. So just another kind of prompt to think about the aesthetic. We were trying to come at this from a very child-friendly, childlike aesthetic. And I think it really helps children to connect to the landscape too, because they feel like it's not so pristine and, you know, hygienic. Anyway, it's just kind of rough and kind of fun. Next slide. And of course they wanted to climb. So we incorporated a couple of nesting areas that they climbed up into. They could kind of communicate with each other across this parkour area. Next slide. And these are play decks. So they could be for seating, they could be for cloud watching, they could be for performance, just very playful and very scaled to the child's size. Next slide. And I think, Brenda, you had this in your deck too. So topography, I was seeing it in some of the other speaker slides. It's so important to have some topography, some shape in the landscape. And so there's lots of these kind of shapes in the landscape that we're helping to also create rooms that you could go in between and through. And again, lots of pathways, like lots of circulation in this design. And next slide. I'll pass it back to Hannah for impact.
Thank you, Heidi. I'll just go quickly through the impact. We have sort of 3 categories here, but there's lots more impact. I'll let you sort of sift through those numbers. I'll highlight the bottom one. We did a triple bottom line analysis with a partner called AutoCase. They look at the social, environmental, and financial impact of the site. So that number is for every $1 invested, there's a $2.19 return on that investment, which is, we're very happy with that. That's amazing. The next slide is about the students. So we're hearing from teachers and principals that some the behavioral issues that they might have seen on the schoolyard before are almost non-existent now, because there's space, there's choice of activity, and there's more to engage the students at different levels, and they can sort of self-select for what is like what they're interested in. And then lastly, the impact on the community. It has really become a community space. I think that's the last slide, Brenda, or the next one. Yeah. It is in a relatively newly built community. So it's creating a dynamic green space that maybe wasn't present in the community before. People are coming before school to play. They're staying after school and visiting on the weekend. So it's really active in the community. And then lastly, I'll share the link in the chat too. On the next slide, you'll see we also have an online resource hub about climate ready schools, where we have interviews with the principal at the school, some of the school board officials, and then a few different how-to guides. So I will find that link and add it in the chat for you. But I think that was very quick, but I'll pass it back to Brenda because I want to make sure there's lots of time for questions.
Thank you, Hannah and Heidi, for this very thorough look at what's happening in Canada. And I love that you mentioned you started planting trees, because that's what we're seeing a lot now too, with the urban forestry grants in the US. And a lot of our communities are, you know, starting to plan, where are these trees going, and really thinking about schoolyards as a place for these trees to go in for the multiple benefits. I'm impressed on at many levels. I think for me, this is the first time I hear it more in depth, but I would, you know, with schools and cities, and we talk about climate, and a lot of cities are in the works, are working on their climate adaptation plans, climate resilience plans. And schoolyards are not the first thing that comes to their mind, right? It actually, in the US, it's quite separate, and you know, working together can be challenging. But I'm curious to learn a little bit more. How did that buy-in come to place? How did greening schoolyards become part of your climate resiliency plan at a bigger level?
I think it's such a great question, Brenda. And I think our 25 plus, almost 30 years of work in the field with school boards, helping them kind of build their capacity to support their schools and their school communities to actually make their dreams and visions happen, is where I think it all started. And so the buildup of that trust with the school boards and Evergreen as a trusted partner. I can't emphasize partnerships enough. And when you actually build trust over a number of years with these school boards, like they do have innovators on the inside that are looking to do more and bust out of their mold, you know, so to speak. And they love to work with Evergreen because we can help them, you know, innovate internally and then spread that kind of, you know, outward. But again, they show they show us that it's really about the school communities and what they want. And the climate urgency came from the students. Like it was suddenly we were seeing declarations like we had, particularly with our pilot school board, there was a student declaration basically about the climate. And then it was like, okay, what are we going to do? Well, we have this partner, Evergreen, and we're already doing a lot. So why don't we just do more and let's codify it and, you know, build people's capacity to do it. And I think this what Ian said, just do it. That's what we were doing early in the you know, resume of Evergreen early on. It was like, start small, do it well. That was our mantra. And we did that with school boards across the country. And then we just built that, you know, that trust. And then of course the climate urgency is just, it's layered in and people see that, you know, students can be hands-on and it reduces the students' anxiety about not being able to make a difference. So anyway, I could go on and on, of course, but I'll leave it there.
I know we need more than an hour to really dig into some of these topics. Alice, I have not kept track of the chat. If there are any questions that you want to raise up that have not been answered, I did drop in the link to where we have more case studies. Like I said, there were 13. Thank you to our speakers, Joaquin, Ian, Heidi, and Hannah. For the wonderful insights today and for really sharing, like I said, this is a global movement and we think some issues are unique to the US, but really there are a lot of similarities, not only in the process, but I've heard in maintenance and everything. So I want to just take this last moment to see if there are any questions or feel free to come off mute. Yeah,
there are, and yeah, thank you all for being here and presenting this wonderful information. So powerful to share these ideas. And some of these questions may have been answered, but somebody asked Ian, Chevy asked Ian, what is playable sidewalk? Is it marked games on a sidewalk? And so Ian, you're welcome to unmute and answer that question. I saw you dropped in a YouTube link, which maybe was—
I'm still awake.
Maybe was of that. So what is a playable sidewalk? And if you already addressed it with the YouTube link, that's totally fine too.
It's not a schoolyard. It's the trottoir, the pavement before the houses. And you can also develop a policy when you are living there with your family. When you start with your family in a city, you don't need much space. And when your child grows up, you would like to go outside. And one of the things we have in Rotterdam, the sunny side of the road, you can organize a 3-meter wide pavement. So young children and families can go outside and the children can play on the street. And more, there's also some green in front of the houses right now. So you can also more relax and sit and play and meet your neighbors.
Okay,
so
great. Thank you.
It's pretty easy. And we're also trying to develop play streets, but that's a bit more difficult. Everyone would like to have his car before the house.
Wonderful, thank you. And then one of the questions was actually from me. what were the movable landscape features for Heidi and Hannah? Movable landscape features. That sounded really interesting.
Alice, I just wrote a response, so I
Okay,
can
great.
answer it quickly, but we worked a lot with the educators with loose parts and actually brought them a loose parts kit. So lots of sort of sticks with Y shape to help build things. And the school community just embraced the idea of loose parts incredibly. Storage can be a big issue for where do you keep things like this? And they committed to finding safe, dry storage for these materials. Heidi showed the sand and water play. So lots of different movable components. I wrote a response, but feel free to ask again if you have any other questions.
Great, thank you. And then I think there's time for one more question, which I thought was really valuable. This is from April Conkey. She's actually our board chair for the Texas Children in Nature Network. And it's for all speakers. Much of the focus has been on primary schools for ages 4 to 10 years old that have formal recess time, which is great. Are there examples of these playscapes for secondary schools for ages 11 to 18 years old? If so, how do you sell the schools that these green and blue landscapes are important to older kids too? Anybody has a response to that? It's a great question. Thanks, April.
Yeah, I can quickly jump in if you want, Brenda. So the work that we've done in different communities, particularly, I can think of a couple of examples on the West Coast in Vancouver, where students were heavily involved in changing the landscape of their high school from something barren and unusable to with a food security focus, they created a community garden. And so they invented this idea themselves, and they wanted to bring others from the community to like invite them to use the space as well. So sometimes school grounds are locked and you can't access them, but in this particular case, it wasn't. And so they created a community garden and addressed a food security issue in their community. We've worked with high school students, and I'm thinking like in the next iteration of climate ready schools, which we're trying to like spread and scale regionally, we're going to be working hopefully with some Indigenous youth who are attending an adult education center, and they're at the center of their vision is ceremonial spaces and food security. So they're going to be co-creating this space with us, and they're also going to be learning green industry trade skills while they're building it. So it's this idea of them getting employable skills and also in the creation of this climate ready landscape.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you all for the wonderful questions and comments. It looks and sounds like everybody got a lot out of it. We're over our time, so I want to be respectful of that. I did put in our evaluation for this webinar, so please fill that out for us to give us feedback, and also for our presenters. And I also put in our next webinar coming up October 2nd, as well as a link to our donations our donation page if you would like to see more free webinars like these. So again, thank you everyone, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we appreciate you spending time with us. And that's a big thank you from both the Children in Nature Network and the Texas Children Network. So thank you, Brenda, Joaquin, Ian.
Gracias, Joaquin.
Hannah.
I don't know how to say it in Dutch, Ian, but thank you.
I should be.
I can learn you. Dankjewel.
Yeah, dankjewel.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
All right, everyone.
Hello.
I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. So everyone take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Hello.